Hi everyone, welcome to AIMS classes. So in this class, I have come up with a new topic called Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. In fact, I'm so glad and happy to have this topic here for you because as a literature student, we could simply understand that it is one of the greatest or very influential play that is ever written, or it has got its importance in the history of English literature because it is such an influential, it was such a creative work that is ever been examined, ever been analyzed by every critics and literature students. So as a part of this, we have this topic here to study. So Waiting for Godot by Samuel Beckett. Let us go to discuss about the author, because that's matter, because the writer is a replication of what is written. So we have to understand what is the writer, who is the writer, and what are the strategies and ideas and themes that he has overcome just in order to write a small work of a small piece of work. So before going to study the play, we'll discuss on the writer. About the writer, I have written some fast facts about Samuel Beckett. These are the facts that Samuel Beckett is popularly known as the Irish novelist. He is of the Irish, he was from Ireland, so he had the descent of Irish, and he was the Irish novelist, playwright, short story writer, theatre director, and poet and literary translator. So all these are the fields on which Samuel Beckett has flourished himself. So we have Samuel Beckett as an Irish novelist, and he is also a playwright. He was popularly as a playwright, he was popularly as a novelist, and some of the other fields on which Samuel Beckett has flourished or blossomed were on short story writing. He has written plenty of short stories. He has directed some of the plays at the theatre. He was a theatre director, and he has written some poems, of course, on the within the plays and apart from plays, and he has written some poems, and he was known as a poet, and he was also a literary translator. He had a great capacity, great ability on a language, hence he has translated some of the literary works. So all these are what the Samuel Beckett is. So let us go discuss some other points. The Samuel Beckett was born as, it was not the real, it was the shortest name of Samuel Beckett. The real name, the complete name of Samuel Beckett is that Samuel Berkeley Beckett. So that's what his family, his original name. It was shortened into Samuel Beckett in the following days. And his pen name, though his name is Samuel Beckett, he has never written plays or things in his original name. He had, it was the popular culture followed by most of the writers in the then society. They used to have a pen name upon which they used to write their essay. Just it is not a matter of enclosing themselves or making themselves unshown, hidden from the society or from the readers. It is just a habit of the writers. Popular writers used to have a pen name, and of course Samuel Beckett also had a pen name called Andrew Bellis. This was his pen name, which is a quite asked question in every competitive exams. Andrew Bellis was the pen name of Samuel Beckett. So that's one of the facts. And the other fact is that Samuel Beckett used to write. He was a bilingual writer. He was an Irishman, so he knew some of the European. Typically, Ireland was typically a European country, and hence the popular language used in Ireland was French. So he had a great hand on French, and he used to write bunch of the writings of Samuel Beckett were written in French. And of course he had a great hand on English too. So he was a bilingual writer, has written in English as well as in French. So that's about his language, his hand-on language. And the notable works of Samuel Beckett. He had written plenty of works, and among which has carried him or won him appreciations were these. He has written some of the notable works like Murphy. Murphy is one of his famous work, and Wat is also a famous works of Samuel Beckett. And we have a Morley and the present play called Waiting for Godot we have, and we have a Endgame. Endgame is one of the famous works of Samuel Beckett, which is yeah, that's about it. It is also a work of Samuel Beckett. We have a Happy Days, etc. There are other more plays, other more works, other more novels of Samuel Beckett, but these are the notable works of Samuel Beckett. So we have so far discussed some fast facts about Samuel Beckett. Like if somebody asks you what are the points that you can tell about Samuel Beckett, you can explain these, and among these the questions may be asked, like a line from any of these works may be taken and asked to you as a question. So these are the important works of Samuel Beckett, and these are the very important points regarding Samuel Beckett. Let us go to some other points about Samuel Beckett. He had awards, like he has won few awards. Like he was not as any other playwright or a novelist or any other literary person. He didn't had a chance to gain so much awards, but he had won typically 2 or 3 awards, among which these are the important awards. Like he has won the Critics genre. It was not an award given to him from the field of literature. It was given to him from the field of army. Like he has used to work in an army as a he had his chance to work in there, so he was awarded from the army as this Critics genre, which was an award, typically an award from Ireland history. So that's about it. And one of the other very important, very notable award of Samuel Beckett is that he was the recipient of Nobel Prize in Literature in 1969. So that may be a very important question for you in the perspective of you, that he was a Nobel recipient in the year 1969, Samuel Beckett. So that's about the fast facts about Samuel Beckett. Let us go a little more deeper into the background, the biography of the writer, because all the time when I explain the childhood incidents or the adulthood incidents, the number of works that he has written, the number of awards that he has gained, number of things and everything about the writer, the thing I try to emphasize is what are the influences that created in writing this particular work or any particular work, because when you analyze the work, it is never a result of overnight writing. ആരും ഒരു രാത്രി ഇരുന്ന് യാതൊരു ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് യാതൊരു അറിവും ഇല്ലാണ്ട് ജസ്റ്റ് ഒരു ഹാഫ് ആൻ അവർ മുൻപ് കണ്ട ഒരു ഇൻസിഡൻസ്, ആസ് വേർഡ്സ്വർത്ത് ആണ് ഈ രീതിയിൽ പറയുക. നമ്മൾ കണ്ട ഒരു ഇൻസിഡൻറ്റിൻ്റെ റാൻഡം റിക്കലക്ഷൻ ആണ് പോയട്രി എന്ന് വേർഡ്സ്വർത്താണ് പറയുക. പക്ഷേ ഇൻ ദ കേസ് ഓഫ് എനി അതർ വർക്ക്സ് ഇഫ് യു ടേക്ക് ഇൻ ദ ഹിസ്റ്ററി ഓഫ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ, ഇറ്റ് കനോട്ട് ബി സോ. ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ആക്ച്വലി ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ്ഡ് ഫ്രോം ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് കെറ്റലിസ്റ്റിക് റീസൺസ്. പല സാഹചര്യ സംഭവങ്ങൾ ചേർന്നിട്ടുള്ളതാണ് ഒരു വർക്കായിട്ട് പ്രതിഫലിക്കുക. Like it comes out from all these negligible factors. So we have to look deep into every aspect, every nook and corner of the writer's life, just in order to understand and assimilate why this work is written in such a way. So as a part of that, we are moving to discuss on the earlier life of Samuel Beckett. Let us see what we get as a part of influence upon this work. Let us go to that, and we have some factors here. I'll discuss on that further because we have a lot more points to discuss, and some facts are here that Samuel Beckett was born in Foxrock, suburban Dublin, Ireland. Dublin is one of the famous spots from where many of the writers have emerged. That particular point is here just in order to make you understand that he is born in a place which is known for literary career. Most of the writer born in Dublin have ended up as a writer, ended up as a person flourished in literature and writing and such things. So he had natural support from the nature in order to flourish, or even we could say that in order to gain the Nobel Prize. At least he has gained the Nobel Prize just because he was born in Dublin. So that's about his birthplace, and he was born on, the date is maybe or may not be important. He was born on 13th April 1906, and that's when he born. And his father was his name was William Beckett. So this was his father. William Beckett was his father, and he was a surveyor. Like he had a job, very appreciable job he had, his father. So they knew the value of education, they knew the value of words and sentences. So they appreciated, they never discouraged Samuel Beckett writing anything, and anything else comes to his mind. So they have, personally or probably we could believe that their parents were so supportive just by understanding that his father was a well-educated, well-appreciated man in the society. And of course his mother was not just as in the case of Europe, we could simply anticipate that the mothers might be working within the wall, teaching their children, or mending the clothes, or minding the stock. All these things is what we can anticipate the mothers would be doing. But here, the mother of Samuel Beckett was a nurse. Her name was Mary, and she was a nurse in the street. Nurse in the city. So by that we can understand. We can simply believe that mother also was so supportive to have Samuel Beckett to write things. And he has begun his career, education at the age of 5 as any other children, and he has appointed to a local grammar school and a nursery school. And apart from studies, their parents wanted Samuel Beckett to learn something else. It was not a matter of their parents, it was a matter of their society. There in the society, the people wanted their children to learn something that can be helpful for the church. ചർച്ചിന് ആവശ്യമുള്ള, ചർച്ചിനെ സഹായിക്കാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഏതോ മറ്റൊരു കല പഠിക്കണം എന്നത് അയർലാൻഡ് ഹിസ്റ്റോറിക്കൽ ഹോബി ആയിരുന്നു. So as a part of that, Samuel Beckett had the chance to learn music when he was 5, while he was studying at a primary school somewhere, and he had the chance to learn music. So that's about his school. And Samuel Beckett, some other fact is that the family, the Beckett is the name of the family. So this Becketts were the member of the Church of Ireland. Church of Ireland in the samsthanamalla, like it was an institution, like an organization or a part of a church, or a bunch of the church. Kore churchuകൾ ചേർന്ന ഒരു സെറ്റ്. So it was typically called as Church of Ireland. Church of Ireland in the members are in the Beckett family. So they wanted Samuel Beckett to be born and grown as an Anglican individual. ഒരു ആംഗ്ലിക്കൻ ആയിട്ട് സമ്പൂർണ്ണമായിട്ടും ചർച്ചിൻ്റെ നിയമങ്ങൾക്ക് ഫോളോ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ട് അത്തരം ഒരു what you call rules and regulations of the church has to be followed, is what their parents expected from the Samuel Beckett, and they have tried to abide to those rules in his earlier life. ആദ്യകാലങ്ങളിൽ അങ്ങനെ ആയിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ പോലും, but at the end of the day, when Samuel Beckett started thinking about God and God existence, he has ended up as an agnostic. Is that agnostic ആയിട്ടാണ് മാറുക ചെയ്തത്. What is agnostic? It is a very important things to be learned, that because we are actually looking into these points just in order to gain some points by which we can see how this work is constructed. ഈ വർക്ക് എങ്ങനെയാണ് കൺസ്ട്രക്ട് ചെയ്തത്, എന്താണ് ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻഷ്യൽ ഫാക്ടർ എന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ നോക്കുന്നത്. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ സാമുവൽ ബെക്കറ്റ് എഗ്നോസ്റ്റിക് ആയി മാറിയതാണ് ഇവിടുത്തെ വളരെ പ്രധാനമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യം. വാട്ട് ഈസ് എഗ്നോസ്റ്റിസിസം? എഗ്നോസ്റ്റിസിസം is a sort of thing. I'll explain you that. In fact, I've written some points on that. It is typically believed that agnosticism is a view that the existence of the God is not known or knowable with any certainty. ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസ് പൂർണ്ണമായിട്ടും അറിയില്ല, അഥവാ അറിയാത്തത് വ്യക്തമായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു റീസൺ ഇല്ലാത്തത് കൊണ്ടാണ് എന്ന് ബിലീവ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഗ്രൂപ്പ് ഓഫ് ആൾക്കാരെയാണ് agnosticism എന്ന് പറയുക. For instance, what actually happens in the case of agnosticism is that if you ask these people whether God exists, ദൈവം ഉണ്ടോ എന്ന് ഇത്തരം ആൾക്കാരോട് ചോദിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ they may say yes. If they say yes, that means yes means they become theist. Theist means ദൈവത്തിനെ വിശ്വസിക്കുന്ന ആൾക്കാർ theist-ആയി മാറിയ. I mean, if you ask generally to a person, ഒരാളിനോട് ദൈവമുണ്ടോ, does God exist എന്ന് ചോദിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ if he asks yes, that means he is a theist. അയാളൊരു മലയാളത്തിൽ എന്താ പറയുക, theist ആണ്. അതേ സമയത്ത് if he says no, that means he is a atheist. നിരീശ്വരവാദിയായിരിക്കും അയാൾ നോ എന്ന് പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ. പക്ഷേ എഗ്നോസിസത്തിൻ്റെ പ്രത്യേകത എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഇഫ് യു ആസ്ക് ദീസ് പീപ്പിൾ ഡസ് ഗോഡ് എക്സിസ്റ്റ്, ദേ വുഡ് ടെൽ നോട്ട് ഷുവർ, എനിക്കറിയില്ല. കാരണം if you ask them ദൈവം ഉണ്ടോ ചോദിച്ചാൽ they may not say yes, or they neither say no nor say yes. ഉണ്ടെന്നും പറയില്ല, ഇല്ല എന്നും പറയില്ല. പക്ഷെ they say I don't know, I may not know, എനിക്കറിയില്ല. കാരണം they doesn't have any authentical reason to substantiate the existence of the God. ദൈവത്തിൻ്റെ എക്സിസ്റ്റൻസ് സ്ഥിരീകരിക്കാനുള്ള യാതൊരു കാരണവും എനിക്കില്ല, എൻ്റെ അടുത്തില്ല, എൻ്റെ പക്കലില്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് I cannot say that the God exists, or I cannot say that the God doesn't exist. So instead they say that human reason or human capacity doesn't got that stability to understand the existence of the God എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് agnostic persons പറയുക. So such a way how such an ideology what Samuel Beckett has authored in his future days after their parents making him to abide to the rules of the Anglicanism. ആംഗ്ലിക്കനായി ജീവിക്കണമെന്ന് പറയുന്ന സാഹചര്യങ്ങളിലും അത്തരം ഒരു ഐഡിയോളജിനെ മാറ്റിയിട്ട് ഒരു എഗ്നോസ്റ്റിക് ഇൻഡിവിജ്വൽ ആയിട്ടാണ് സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റ് വളരുക. So that's about the ideological standardity, or the what you call that has got the influence on all the thematical or structural or technical aspect that the Samuel Beckett has profoundly used in his work. So that's about some of the points about Samuel Beckett. Let us continue. So far we have seen how Samuel Beckett religious ideology was structured. How he was departed from the Anglican ideology and ended up into something very very controversial, and that's about his ideology, religious ideology. Let us look into his career and his profession, how it was molded and what has influenced him, and such things can be studied by these points. Let us go to that. When he has taken away, completed his education from some local schools especially with music and such things, and he has to join university around 1919 and 1920s, and he has joined into Porter Royal School in Ixcal, and that's where he has joined. And when he was doing his studies there, high school studies there, the famous writer called Oscar Wilde was his co-student. He was his friend there. He was studying with him in this particular school, so he had a chance to meet and communicate, converse, and share his ideas, opinion with such eminent personalities. So he had a chance for that, and later he has adopted to something called Trinity College, where he had to go for further education. He has joined at the Trinity College, Dublin, for doing his education in modern literature. He has to study modern literature in his high school, so he has studied that at the Trinity College, Dublin. And while doing his education there at the Dublin, he was, apart from education, already he was good in music. He has studied in music, and he used to play instruments at the church, and so far things has been done. But while he was doing his education at high school education at Dublin, he had become a famous cricket player, that he was good in athlete and he has excelled in cricket, especially in cricket. So he was a good left hand bowler and a left arm batsman there, and he has excelled himself in cricket. So this doesn't make any sense here, but one of the record regard Samuel Beckett is that Samuel Beckett become, in the history of the Dublin University, he became the first Nobel Prize laureate to play the first class match in the Dublin University. So that's what that was one of the important record made by Samuel Beckett in the history of Dublin University, that he became the first Nobel laureate. I mean, when he was doing his education there, he didn't get any Nobel Prize, but in the in the coming year, in his future, what happened, he has won the Nobel Prize, but this university has recognized him as the first Nobel laureate to play the first class cricket there in the university. So that's about his education till the Dublin University. So his working career, let us see the working career of Samuel Beckett. That Samuel Beckett basically studied, as he was a man from Ireland, he has to basically study French and Italy apart from English. He has studied many languages as a part of his curriculum, as a part of his education. So he has studied French, Italian language, and he has studied English. And after this, I mean, though he was studying that, he had the chance to graduate from the Trinity College in English literature. I mean, in BA, he has completed his BA graduation from the Trinity College, and once he completed that, he has joined as a lecturer at Campbell College in Belfort. So that's where he was teaching his hand. I mean, he had the chance to teach his knowledge at the Campbell University as a professor there, as a lecturer there. So he was, apart from athlete, apart from musician, apart from writer, he was also a professor. He was also a lecturer there. So that's about his career and working career. Let us see some more points about his literary career. What has happened, how could he publish his first work, and such things can be understood by these points. What happens is, when he was doing when he has joined for higher education, and though he was a lecturer, he has joined for higher education. At the time, what happens, he had the chance to meet a renowned personality, renowned author there, and a very popular, very influential writer called named James Joyce. James Joyce, as you know, that he was the avant-garde writer. Avant-garde എന്ന മൂവ്മെൻറ്റിൻ്റെ ഫോർമുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തതും പോപ്പുലൈസ് ചെയ്ത ഒരു വളരെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള റൈറ്ററാണ് James Joyce, and he was also known as the father of stream of consciousness technique. He is the first one who has used the stream of consciousness technique. So Samuel Beckett had the chance to meet and he had the chance to meet such personalities in his time. So that all these people, all these influential people had their influence on Samuel Beckett and in his writing career. So that's about him. And as a part of influence from the James Joyce, just by looking into his writing and the way he writes, the way he uses the stream of consciousness techniques, and the way he constructs sentences, all that has influenced Samuel Beckett. And though he didn't have the personal interest to write something, he was living in such a society where the writing was encouraged and writing was popularized as a mean of showcasing your knowledge. So as a part of that, Samuel Beckett has started writing some of the works, and the first work was published in the year 1929, and that's when his first publication occurred. And he has written a critical essay, not a novel, not a short story, not a very serious writing. He just writes an essay, critical essay, with the name called Dante Bruno. I mean, there's a lot of space between Dante, space, comma, Bruno, comma, by Vico, comma, Joyce. That was the name of his work, the first critical essay, Dante, Bruno, Vico, and Joyce. This novel is, this critical essay is written just for the sake of writing, and is written to emphasize the advantages, or just in order to describe the Joycean method or the James Joyce method of writing. He just wanted to give importance, just to appreciate or to let the people know that how James Joyce is popular. He has written in order to flourish the writing style of James Joyce. At the same time, he just wanted to criticize somebody called Vanton, the popular writer who was a contemporary of James Joyce. But for Samuel Beckett, consider Winston is a very very dim writer. This is quite important, that in the time, not currently, at the time when the English literature was flourishing, they had a sort of hobby writing critical essays by condemning the writing style of somebody. That was a hobby of their then writers, because we have a lot of bunch of writing works like that. നമുക്ക് അതേപോലെ കുറേ വർക്കുകളിൽ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ലിറ്ററേച്ചറിലുണ്ട്. ലൈക്ക് ഒരാളുടെ വർക്കിംഗ് സ്റ്റൈലിനെ അപ്രിഷ്യേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും, അറ്റ് ദ സെയിം ടൈം മറ്റൊരാളുടെ റൈറ്റിംഗ് സ്റ്റൈൽ തെറ്റാണ്, അതിൽ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ് തെറ്റുകൾ എന്ന് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ വിഭാഗം. Like we have a field like that in literature. It was actually abandoned or being stopped in a particular time. അതിനുശേഷം ഇതുവരെ ആരും അങ്ങനെ എഴുതിയിട്ടില്ല. പക്ഷേ we had a popular writing style like that, and Samuel Beckett, our present Samuel Beckett, started writing in such a field. അത്തരം ഒരു ഫീൽഡിലാണ് എഴുതാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത്. തൻ്റെ കണ്ടംപററി ആയിട്ടുള്ള ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സിൻ്റെ റൈറ്റിംഗ് സ്റ്റൈലിനെ അപ്രിഷ്യേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സിൻ്റെ കോൺട്രഡിക്ടറി റൈറ്റർ, കണ്ടംപററി ഒരു എനിമി ആയിട്ടുള്ള വാട്സൻ്റെ writing style തെറ്റാണ്. Like he has considered in the essay, he has written Watson as an obscure writer or a diminished or a dim writer എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് ആ essayയിൽ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ളത്. So why I'm explaining this is for some reasons. Like it is one of the, it is the first publication of Samuel Beckett. അത്തരം ഒരു പോയിന്റിൽ ഇത് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. At the same time, എത്തരം ഫീൽഡിലാണ് സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റ് എഴുതാൻ തുടങ്ങിയത് എന്നത് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻ്റ് ആണ്. കാരണം we know that he didn't have a great hand on the language. He had a great hand on the language, but he didn't have any personal experience writing literature. Of course, we know that if somebody wanted to write something or to publish themselves as a literary person, first thing they would do is write a poem. ഒരു poem ആയിരിക്കും ആദ്യം എഴുതുക. പക്ഷേ here Samuel Beckett started writing a critical essay. അങ്ങനെയാണ് തുടങ്ങിയത്. അതേപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ പേര് ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക, ഡാൻറ്റെ ബ്രൂണോ വീക്കോ ജോയ്സ്. വളരെ ചൈൽഡിഷ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള പേരല്ല ഇവിടെ തന്നിട്ടുള്ളത്. യു ക്യാൻ സി ഡാൻറ്റെ കുറച്ച് ആൻഡ് കുറേ പോയിൻ്റ് എഗെയിൻ ഒരു ബ്രൂണോ അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ലൈക്ക് ഇഫ് യു സീ ദിസ് particular title, we may believe that it might be a line from a poem. ഒരു കവിതയുടെ ഭാഗം, ഒരു ലൈനാണെന്നേ വിചാരിക്കുള്ളൂ. അത്രയും ഇൻസ്റ്റാൻഡേർഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു സെൻറ്റൻസ് സ്ട്രക്ചർ ആയിരുന്നു സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റിന് ഇനീഷ്യൽ സ്റ്റേജിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. ലേറ്റർ ഇൻ ദ ടൈം I can explain you that how far Samuel Beckett was devoting himself to the literature, how far he was escaping from the literature. ലിറ്ററേച്ചറുമായിട്ട് എത്തരം like it comes naturally for a writer, but in the case of the Samuel Beckett, he didn't have the natural ability to write. അതൊരു കാര്യമായിട്ട് further വരുന്നുണ്ട്. I'll explain you when the point comes. So you can just note on to this title just in order to justify how far it is correct or wrong. അത്തരം സെൻറ്റൻസുകൾ, ഇത്തരം ടൈറ്റിൽസ്, ഇനീഷ്യൽ വർക്കിൻ്റെ ടൈറ്റിൽസ് നോക്കിയാൽ മനസ്സിലാവും സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റിന് റൈറ്റിങ്ങിലൂടെ അല്ല ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ റൈറ്റിങ്ങിൽ എത്തരം ഹാൻഡ് ആണ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നത്, ലൈക്ക് എത്ര എബിലിറ്റി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ പറ്റും. സോ ദാറ്റ്സ് അബൌട്ട് ദിസ് പെർട്ടിക്കുലർ പോയിന്റ്. ലെറ്റ് us see. The further point is that his second work of course, it was the first of short story. അയാൾ എഴുതിയ ആദ്യത്തെ ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറിയും രണ്ടാമത്തെ വർക്ക് ഒന്നാണ്. അതിൻ്റെ പേര് എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ Assumption. That was the name of the work. Assumption was the name of the second work of Samuel Beckett, which is the first short story of Samuel Beckett. So that's about the fact about Assumption. ഈ Assumptionൻ്റെ ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ ഒരു ചെറിയ സ്റ്റോറി ഉണ്ട്. What actually happens is till now we know that James Joyce had a great influence from, not the James Joyce, the Samuel Beckett had a great influence from James Joyce, the popular writer. അത് നന്നായി വളരുകയും ചെയ്തു. ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സ് വാസ് പേഴ്സണലി അറ്റാച്ച്ഡ് ടു സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റ് വാസ് പേഴ്സണലി അറ്റാച്ച്ഡ് ടു ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സ് ആൻഡ് ഹി യൂസ് ടു കൺവേഴ്സ്, ഹി യൂസ് ടു വിസിറ്റ് ഹിസ് ഫാമിലി. അത്തരം ഒരു വളരെ അടുപ്പത്തിലായിരുന്നു ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സും സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റും. ആ കാരണത്തിനാൽ വാട്ട് ഹാപ്പൻസ് ഇസ് സാമുവൽ ബക്കറ്റ് was actually being proposed by James Joyce's daughter called Lpsa. Lpsa എന്നത് ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സിൻ്റെ ഡോട്ടറാണ്. ഡോട്ടർ വന്നിട്ട് ഒരു റിലേഷൻ, ഒരു not a normal relation, maybe a proposal, maybe a marriage proposal, whatever, something happens between them, and what happens, Samuel Beckett reject her peevishly, വളരെ ദാരുണമായിട്ട് റിജക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യും ലൂസിയ എന്ന ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സിൻ്റെ ഡോട്ടർ, just by understanding the fact that Lucia was a psychiatrically diseased person ആയിരുന്നു. ലൂസിയ ഒരു സ്കൈസോഫ്രീനിയ എന്ന രോഗത്തിൻ്റെ അടിമയായിരുന്നു. ലൈക്ക് he had this disease, and by knowing that he rejects her, and most of the critics believe that the work Assumption was written with this influence. ജെയിംസ് ജോയ്സിൻ്റെ ഡോട്ടർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ലൂസിയെ റിജക്റ്റ് ചെയ്തു. For this reason is what made a catalytic reason for writing this work എന്നാണ് കുറേ വർക്ക് ക്രിറ്റിക്സ് ഒപ്പീനിയൻസ് വന്നിട്ടുള്ളത്. Let us see. But in the year, in the previous year, what happened? In the following year, what happens? This work, the Assumption, was published in the Jolas periodical magazine called the Transition എന്ന പീരിയോഡിക്കൽ മാഗസീനിലാണ്. അതൊരു സോളാസ് പറയുന്ന ഒരാളുടെ ആയിരുന്നു. ആ ഒരു പീരിയോഡിക്കൽ മാഗസീനിലാണ് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് അവൻ്റെ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറി Assumption പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തത്. ദ നെയിം ഓഫ് ദ മാഗസീൻ ഈസ് ട്രാൻസിഷൻ. സോ ഈ മാഗസീനിൽ വെച്ചിട്ടാണ് ആദ്യമായിട്ട് ഫസ്റ്റ് ഷോർട്ട് സ്റ്റോറി Assumption പബ്ലിഷ് ചെയ്തത്. സോ ദാറ്റ്സ് അബൌട്ട് some of the facts about Samuel Beckett. Let us go to some other points about Samuel Beckett.